This Steve Jones Show podcast is now loading. The Steve Jones Show podcast is presented by Sunbury Motor Company, Purdy Insurance, Brewers Outlet, and NIL Game Changers. Bringing you an in-depth look at Penn State sports and more. This is the Steve Jones Show on News Radio 1070 WKOK. The Steve Jones Show is presented by Brewers Outlet, NIL Game Changers, Sunbury Motor Company, and Purdy Insurance. Now from the Sunbury Motor Studio, here's Steve Jones.
Oh, how's everybody doing today? Great to be with you on the show. I believe, what was my quote yesterday about Colorado State, Virginia? I said first team to 50 wins. I said, and it'll be Colorado State. Well, to my knowledge, Virginia is still out there right now and still haven't reached 50. Whew. Brutal. Brutal. Wow. All right. So let's bring in the great man himself, Joe Lunardi. Sir, welcome after Saturday night had to be chaotic in your world. Are you able to breathe now?
Yeah, I'm breathing. I'm definitely in the wind down mode. And to your point, I think Virginia would have needed to play 3 halves last night to get to 50.
And even then, I would think it would be
It would have been a toss-up.
It would have been a struggle to get there.
And I mean, look, Steve, we've had this conversation.
Yeah.
Like, the easiest thing to do is to dump on the committee after the fact.
Right.
Right? And one game is one game.
Right.
And as a person who is also often dumped on with one game after the fact, I can appreciate that.
Yeah.
But, like, the entire college basketball population was saying this was going to happen.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Like, my miss, and I find it almost perverse logic, doing what I do and seeming to be in this pattern of getting 67 out of 68, no more, no less, for however many years in a row.
Right.
Like, it's at the point now where I predicted my miss before it happened. Because I thought I was going to miss on Oklahoma,
right?
Which was correct. And somebody said, "Well, you would have had them all," and I'm like, "No, I wouldn't, because I wouldn't have put Virginia in."
Right.
And that's kind of the point here, I think. And I am not an eye test guy.
Right.
Okay. We play 35 games a year, roughly, before Selection Sunday. We keep score for a reason. We should base it primarily on results.
Yeah.
But in this case, I base it on results, but I also, look at things. And I just kind of want to know what they were watching. And I don't even think it's that. I think that the ACC voice in the room simply was louder and more powerful than the Big East voice or Indiana State's voice or I don't know what voice. And what I really, really, really think is that they all knew that Pitt was better.
Yep.
Pitt blasted Virginia at Virginia, but they simply couldn't take Pitt because of that non-conference schedule number.
That's right.
And we could argue until the start of football season over whether that's a legitimate criteria. But what's not arguable is they've applied it consistently for 30 years.
Yeah.
If you're on the bubble with a crappy non-com number, you're not getting in. And it happened to you guys.
Yeah.
The year you won the NIT last. So
yeah, right.
And I remember having that conversation with Patrick.
Yep.
So, at least you have to kind of stand up and acknowledge their consistency in applying it. And they also didn't give Iowa State a 1 seed. or higher up the 2 line because their non-conference schedule was awful. Like,
right.
I thought both of those things were, like, the most predictable outcomes in the whole bracket.
Right. And people don't realize, I've always tried to point this out to everybody, and please tell me if I'm off base here. Joe's not sitting there doing his opinion. Joe is trying to think the way the committee thinks, and he's trying to give you an indication of what direction they might be going in, and that's why the accuracy is so good. Am I fair there?
Exactly. Because, I mean, pick your favorite network for college basketball, and there's dozens and dozens of analysts telling you who should be in.
Yeah.
Right? And they're giving basketball opinions, presumably. It's a little irritating to me sometimes when they give those opinions and never say who they would take out.
Right. Right.
Because, you know, that's kind of part and parcel of the whole, like, limited field thing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I'd like the Eagles to sign every all-pro defensive player available. But I think they have this thing called a salary cap, which prevents that. So we have our own salary cap. It's called, like, 68.
Yeah.
And the reality this year is we really only had 63.
Yeah.
Because the at-large pool shrunk by 5. I mean, it didn't shrink in real terms, but for the typical at-large availability, 5 spots simply disappeared because of what you mentioned, the Saturday and Saturday night chaos. And in an average year, it's 1 or 2. So you want to be, I don't know, Oklahoma, Seton Hall, Indiana State, Pitt, Providence, whomever. At least half of those teams would have gotten in a normal year. We'd be having an entirely different debate today.
That's right. And I think the combined total the last 2 years was 3. The combined total was 3. This time it was
the
5.
average is about 1.5.
Yeah. And so,
because I kind of pay attention to these things.
Right. I noticed. And
well, I mean, anyone would if that was their job.
Right, exactly. And you know, I mean,
right?
And Joe, here's the other part. But the NCAA committee still does a couple of things where I sit back and go, whoa, hold on. And I'll just give you one. We all know NC State had to play 5 games, 5 days. We know that.
Yes.
Okay. So and they steal a bid because I believe before the ACC tournament they had no quad 1 wins.
Yeah, they weren't going anywhere.
Right, they're going nowhere. Right, but they play 5 and 5, and the result is Saturday night they win. Why are they playing on a Thursday and not a Friday? That's the part where I get baffled. Like, okay, why do they have to play Thursday?
Without reverse engineering the seed list into a blank bracket, which is what I will do at some point, it may be that was the only place they could go.
Yeah, maybe.
Right?
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at the 11 spots, the spots for 11 seeds, 3 of the 4 happen to be Thursday, Saturday.
Right, okay.
And that's pretty random.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm not going to bang them for that.
Yeah. I'm just saying,
on the list of transgressions, that would be like 105th.
Yeah. Was it Apollo 13? There are 800 things that have to be happening between now and Splashdown. We're up to number 8.
Yeah, exactly. Here's what I really think, Steve. This is what I really think. If the NCAA was serious about cost containment and objectivity, they'd give Girardi and I a pizza and a 6-pack and let us do it.
Oh, and believe me, we'd have a field at that point.
And we'd throw the NIT in no extra charge.
That's great. And not only that, would I at least be allowed to go out and bring in the pizza and the beverages?
Well, no, you'd be the tiebreaker when we didn't agree.
There you go. See, now we've solved everything.
But I know, our names have rhymed for 40 years, so I suspect we would agree a lot.
I had a feeling that there would not be a lot of arguments. How about that?
Well, and if there were, Dick would win.
Oh, now there's an absolute in life. There's an absolute.
No, it's like being married. If you just assume you're going to lose the 1-1 vote,
right, exactly.
you save a lot of time.
Oh no, I've always counted on. I know where 51% of the vote is. All right.
Yeah, exactly. That's really great.
I always figure that out quickly. All right. So when you look at the field, right? What are your general thoughts of a couple of things people should be looking for now as we get to the final day of the first four?
That, as much as it pains me to say, they basically got it right.
Yep.
Like we picked Nits because A, good programming, and B, they're Nits to pick. And I guarantee you, if you put those same 12 people in the room today and they went through all that overlapped repetitive voting for selection and seeding, the outcome would be different. It's really that close to call.
Sure.
And there's not a lot of separation at the end of the line. To me, the storyline of the season overlaps into the tournament, which is, and this is unusual, however you want to order the top three. They did UConn, Houston, Purdue.
That's right.
Okay?
Yep.
Right? And since New Year's, almost, definitely mid-January, those three have been separated.
Right.
Maybe not a full rung up the ladder, but at least a half a rung.
Yep.
And right? And now they jockeyed amongst themselves, but nobody ever slipped back to the rest of the pack.
All right.
So I think an interesting prop bet, I think of all the years where it was like, you want to take Tiger or you want to take the field at Augusta, right? I think if someone offered me those three against the field, what would the play be?
I mean,
because ordinarily in the NCAA tournament, you always take the field.
Yeah.
Because the field always wins.
Oh, last year,
the best team, we think about how dominant UConn was, and they were a 4.
They were a 4 seed. Yep.
Yeah, and they had their bumps during the year.
Yep.
I don't remember them complaining about being a 4. And in fairness, Danny would complain that it's Tuesday. So
I know. You and I know that. Yes.
Oh my gosh, he would. I think he's a phenomenal coach, but he would give an aspirin a headache.
Oh my goodness, yes.
So, that said, I would be very surprised if the champion isn't one of those three. Yeah. And I think that what were the seed numbers last year of the Final Four? I think it added up to 23.
I think that's right. Yeah.
It was a big number.
Yeah.
And the biggest number ever, I think. And I'm not saying we're not going to have upsets all over the place this weekend and maybe into next, but I think by the time they get to the end, we're going to have a regression to some chalk because of the power of those 1 seeds. Now, they're not all going to make it.
No. Because
it's only happened once in 40 years. But three of them are going to make it, I think.
Right. No, I think a couple of them will make it. Look, this is Penn State's in it last year. Okay.
Right.
And somebody asked me about what seed they were, and I said, you know what? You know what the seeding means? Okay, all the seeding means is, okay, if you win, who's next? I said, it doesn't matter about where everybody else is. It just tells you what's your pathway. Right? And I think that's hard for people to grasp as to what that actually means. That's what it is.
Path is everything.
Yeah.
Path is everything. Yep. There's a great banner in Boca Raton that says Final Four 2023. It's never coming down, to their credit.
Yep.
I don't think there's an asterisk that says we played FDU in the second round and not Purdue. Right?
Exactly.
And the ACC still coming after me for telling the truth about their decline. We had 2 teams in the Final Four, Duke and Carolina. Well, Carolina in the Elite Eight that's St. Peter's.
Yeah.
Now, nothing against St. Peter's,
but
right? Great story. We all loved it.
Yeah.
Since 1939, when the tournament started, no one's ever had an easier Elite Eight game.
That's right.
It just, and it wasn't because of seed. It was because, it wasn't Purdue's day against St. Peter's. It definitely wasn't Kentucky's day either in the round before. So,
right.
Sometimes it just falls into the bad luck category or good luck.
Right. Well, exactly. But this
or bracket luck or seed luck.
Just because you have great history, which is important, doesn't mean in this particular year you're having a great year, right? And you add the intelligence to tell everybody, hey, look, you're not quite as good this year, which they were irritated about, because as I've told people, the last 2 years, let's take Indiana, as great a tradition as anybody has in the sport, right? They're right up there in tradition.
Correct.
Yet the last 2 years, Penn State's been a better team than Indiana, including this year. They've just been better.
No question.
Right? Well, guess what,
right.
Joe? Okay? It doesn't matter that you won in 1987. It's 2024. If Wake Forest isn't good enough, they're not good enough.
Yeah. I remember watching a baseball game once, and Joe Garagiola was talking about, I think it was the Astros and Art Howe being able to turn a double play. He was Astros manager at the time, and he's like, well, he said, that guy's no better than Art Howe at turning the double play. He said, but Art Howe's 63 years old. He doesn't quite pivot the way he used to. So that's what we're talking about. And when you said, great history doesn't translate, I think the Latin word for that right now is Virginia.
Yeah.
I love UVA as a school, as a program, but coach, everything.
Yeah.
They're just not very good at basketball.
Right.
And, okay, that's not, a world-ending statement. But I think we kind of saw it to be pretty true.
Yeah. Well, in the decade of the 20s, who has more NCAA tournament wins? Penn State or Virginia? Okay.
Well, I know Virginia doesn't have any.
That's right. And Penn State has one.
So, yeah. And So to me, the logic is if that team went 13-7 in the ACC, now I'd have to look because, like everything else now, there's unbalanced schedules.
Right.
Right?
Exactly.
But, I grew up on ACC basketball in part because it was the only thing on television.
Right, exactly.
ACC and Notre Dame.
Yep.
And
same
and yeah, of course. And you can't tell me that this ACC 5 years later is as good as the one that had Zion Williamson.
That's right.
It just isn't. And at some point, they're going to wake up and go, maybe we need to address the basketball part of this.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, go ahead. No.
I've pontificated more than enough, which I tend to do after the bracket.
Yeah, no, this is you and me talking. Who cares? It's not pontificating. It's just two guys talking basketball. Hey, St. Joe Seton Hall, opening round NIT. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, how about it? Well, I mean, how many teams had to decline to open up this bracket to make it look like a regular NIT?
Yeah.
As opposed to what we feared.
Right.
I know my Hawks are thrilled to be in. They didn't expect it, but as team after team after team kept failing, well, whatever was in the end, bid thieves on the one side. Well, we had bid givers in the NIT.
Yeah.
Seton Hall's the number one overall seed. That's who the Hawks drew. 7.5 point line is a big line for a postseason game.
Mm-hmm.
It's not at the big arena; it's at the little gym on campus. Like, this is going to be a heavy lift for the Hawks.
Sure.
Who are pretty good.
Yeah.
But what have we seen in the NIT 100 times? Which is the teams that want to be there, kind of stamp themselves pretty early. And some big names are there, and I would think there'd be fewer kind of bad effort teams because most of them presumably said no. But we don't know that. Like, I saw LSU hosting North Texas last night because it's in the other part of the Hawks bracket, and like they got blasted at home and looked like they couldn't have beaten a CYO team.
Right.
So, as a Hawk, I'm kind of hoping that maybe Seton Hall has that issue tonight. But they start 4 seniors and a grad transfer, and they voted unanimously to play. So I'm going to bring a helmet.
Hey, there we go. Hey. Thank Joe. Thanks so much. You and I always have a great time just talking. Right? It's just great to have you on, as always.
Yeah, it's my favorite. I love it when I hear from you, Steve.
Hey, Joe, you did another great job. And it's interesting because I talked to my broadcasting class today about critics. I said, I have 2 words. I said, if you know what you're doing, who cares?
Yeah, it bothered me more, I guess, when I was younger. Yeah. And as long as people don't make it personal.
Right.
Like, for the most part, we're having basic, like, sports bar arguments.
Exactly.
And that's okay.
Yeah,
it's that kind of, fan is short for what? Fanatic.
Yep.
And if that's what fuels the enterprise, well, it'd be hypocritical of me to rebel against it. Because if nobody paid attention, I'd be retired.
Right. And Girardi's the tiebreaker in the 3-man room.
Yeah, there you go. Maybe next year, pal.
Hey, Joe, thanks so much, my friend. Let's stay in touch, please.
You bet. It's almost golf season.
You got time. Doesn't matter what time it is because it's Brewers Outlet time. The beverage supermarket has the area's largest beer selection, imports, microbrews, ciders, and domestics. Pick from over 100 ice-cold 12-packs and dozens of 24-ounce singles. Soda, snacks, hot sauces, fresh roasted peanuts. Make it one-stop party shopping, and don't forget the pickle bar. So whatever you're celebrating or just doing it up, Brewers Outlet, Reagan Street, Sunbury wants to see you. And thank you for your years of patronage.
You want a unique way to display your brand. You need a team of seasoned experts to work with. You want to reach customers who buy. You want NIL Game Changers, a versatile consulting agency powered by former student athletes and coaches who work as NIL sports agents. NIL Game Changers will help you build powerful relationships with customers through compelling stories, with student athlete influencers as your leading edge. Finally, we'll equip you with the right media to drive your success home. NILGameChangers.org, building meaningful relationships with your customers.
There's something to be said about a sale with a handshake, a service technician who really knows what he's doing. They can explain it in English what the problem is. There's nothing better than having that friend you could trust in the area. That's Sunbury Motors, where you get selection, knowledgeable salespeople, and prices that fit your budget, and more important, that friend you can trust. Welcome to Sunbury Motors, Kia, Ford, and Hyundai. You could shop other dealers and compare prices, but at Sunbury Motors, you get their lowest price promise. They research the current used vehicle market and guarantee their used car prices are the lowest. If you find a lower price, Sunbury Motors will beat it. 3 dealers all in one. See their full new and pre-owned inventory at sunburymotors.com. Pick out a vehicle you like and schedule your test drive online. Follow them on Facebook. Sunbury Motors Ford and Hyundai, North 4th Street, Sunbury, and Sunbury Motors Kia, routes 11 and 15 in Hummel's Wharf.